What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another 60 feet 6 inches, your fantasy baseball home over at fakepigskin.com. I'm your host, Kyle Robert. You can follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO, right there if you're watching us on YouTube. With me, as always, is Ben Rolfe. What's up, Ben?
Not much, Kyle. Just wondering whether or not Germany can come back and win this, and whether or not to put a bit more money on Germany, or whether I've already got too much tied up in their failings right now.
No such thing as too much money on Germany. You know me. I think they're coming back. I think they're working on a goal right now. Um, this past week or so has been awesome with the World Cup back. I watch some Premier League when I can, but there's nothing like every 4 years the World Cup, the best players on the biggest stage. It's been incredible.
Yeah, it's quite nice here because it starts yesterday. It started at 11 o'clock. I was playing cricket, so I didn't see most of it. But today, we've started at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we can just watch football until 10 o'clock at night. It's amazing. The only thing I do kind of wish is that it was a little bit further across, like in Japan, China kind of thing, and then we could stick it on at 10 o'clock in the morning and watch it all day. That would be even better for me, especially being at home with the little one for these couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, when it was in Brazil 4 years ago, it was perfect for me because it was literally on through most of the day. Being on the West Coast and trying to watch some of these games, I mean, they'll come on at 3 o'clock in the morning, and that's just not happening. I did get up at 6 to watch Messi and Argentina play yesterday, which was actually despite Messi not playing great and missing some kicks that actually at least one of them should have been a goal. Oh, Chicharito fell in the box. Nope, they're not calling it. I thought we would get Messi goal and Argentina would win, and we've been talking about how frustrated we are with all these favorites letting us down, but nonetheless, it's been incredible.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it, and it's been a great start to the week, and I can't wait to watch the next few days.
Yeah, England plays tomorrow?
Yeah, England play tomorrow, and I've managed to arrange date night with my wife because it's her birthday, because I forgot England were playing, and I'm now getting brownie points for it, I think.
Yeah, that should be double brownie points. Maybe you can figure it out. I'll send you updates via DM. I'll be watching for sure.
Also, England, the most disappointing team to watch in a World Cup.
Yeah, well, them in Belgium, and I feel like there's one other squad that every year has a ton of talent. I think, I honestly think this is one of England's best teams. No?
Yeah, in a way it is, but it's just, can they finally just not screw it up at the most important points? I just feel like we had a decent team back in 2002, 2006, when we had the Beckhams, the Lampards, the Gerrards all at their peak, and we just couldn't put it together. The difference was we had Michael Owen around, but we didn't have the lock striker that we have now in Harry Kane.
Yeah.
You feel like now every time the ball goes in the box, Kane can score a goal like he does for Tottenham often. So that makes a huge difference in these tournaments, because if you have a guy that you can just put the ball in there and he can score, and then you've got people like Raheem Sterling, it'll be interesting. I mean, it's possibly the least expectation we've had going into a tournament for a long time. So Sod's Law is probably going to be the time we do quite well, and then they've talked about 2022 being the year they think that they're targeting, and I guess in 4 years' time, this squad, if they can stick it together and these guys can stay consistent. But planning for 4 years is so difficult. So much changes in 4 years. Just bring it around to baseball and stuff. You just see how much difference 4 years makes to someone. I'm fairly sure 4 years ago, Matt Latos was a good pitcher in baseball.
Yeah.
And now he's out of the league. It's insane. And Rich Hill was basically just considered over the hill 4 years ago. I enjoyed that. And since
4 years ago, the Giants were winning the World Series.
Yeah, but flukes happen, don't they?
Yeah, flukes 3 times, 10, 12, 14. Very, very fluky. Oh, we just took one to the face. Speaking of Rich Hill, let's talk about him, because obviously he is actually expected to make a return. I guess he's expected to start Tuesday at Chicago. Do we actually see Rich Hill pitching? Because it seems like the last few times, we've expected it, and then he hasn't, or he's pitched a couple innings and he's been out. I guess, what are your expectations for Rich Hill?
Not hugely high in this start. I mean, you just you're right. It's so disappointing because every time we think he's coming back, he struggles. And I'm very much a proponent. If you've drafted Rich Hill, you have to start him in most of these because you don't know how many starts you're going to get from him this year.
Yeah.
And you kind of need that. I mean, he struck 10 out in his last rehab start in 75 pitches, but that was in high A. So, I mean, like, there's a fair bet that like a random guy off the street could get a couple of strikeouts in high A. That obviously, I'm being sarcastic there. Please don't send me abuse on Twitter like I got last time I made a comment. But it's so tough with Rich Hill. I want to chuck him out there every time, but this is a guy with a 6.20 ERA on the season in 6 starts. In 6 starts, he's averaging 4 innings a start. I mean, I don't know, but I'd say that's not good.
Yeah.
So it's just really tough. Like, I don't know what you do with him in this start against the Cubs. I guess one thing to look at on Tuesday, I know it's difficult if you're in a weekly, but one thing to look at on Tuesday if you're in a daily would just be to look at the weather conditions at Wrigley Field. If the wind is blowing out, then I'm absolutely going to stay away from Rich Hill. But if the weather conditions look quite nice, I think then I might roll him out there and just see what I can get. I might get some sort of bonus from him, especially if I'm not in a league which caps starts. I think I'm less likely to use him in a league with starts caps, but if it's just like an innings cap or a no starts cap kind of league, I think I'll chuck him out there and just see what I get from him, really.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that's actually widely available. He's only owned in 35% of ESPN leagues. Is he a guy that even if you don't plan on using him on Tuesday, that's worth adding? Because this is a guy that we were talking about, kind of as a SP2, SP3 coming into the season, and obviously, we've mentioned, he has injury issues, but he also has health concerns where he'll miss starts. So, you kind of have to take the bumps and bruises with the good stuff. The good stuff hasn't been there this year. So is he a guy you're adding, and maybe he can be a guy that helps down the stretch, or is he a guy to, just kind of see how it goes, and he's really just a streamer until he shows he's more?
No, I think he's absolutely a guy I would look to add right now. I mean, you've got nothing to lose by adding him, really, because if he's good, then you're gonna benefit. If he struggles a little bit, then you've got him down the line. But if he goes out and he's really good, and you turn to waivers in a couple of weeks and he's not there, you're gonna kick yourself. So I think go and grab him. Don't give up like too much for him, but there must be a guy on the back end of your roster who you can afford to drop for him. So I'd just go and add him. Chances are he'll only be taking up a DL spot for you in a couple of weeks. Anyway, so I mean, I don't think you've got a huge amount to lose. I'd go and add him. I think he's a quality pitcher, and he's going to come back around as the season goes on.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Even if you just add him and like sit him on your bench, and maybe he has a start or two where he starts flashing old Rich Hill, and you can swap him out. And even if you're like, oh, my pitching staff's loaded, I don't need Rich Hill. It's always good to have a trade chip. You can trade him for a back end of your bench bat or something, or combine him with something and get a better piece. Like if Rich Hill flashes for a couple outings, or maybe he becomes a guy that you keep, and then you end up selling your other guy, kind of down the road. Let's keep it moving and talk about some more pitchers. I wanted to talk about this Jonathan LaCiglia guy. He went 5 innings in his first outing, 3 hits, 6 strikeouts. He's the first Yankees starter to go 5 innings or more and not allow an earned run since Tanaka. Obviously it'll be interesting to see kind of, if it was just a 1 or 2 start kind of thing for him, just because he's taking Tanaka's spot. But he has an outing this week against Washington. I think this is another guy, Ben, that maybe you don't use him this week, but you add him and see if this is, something real, or if, it was just a really good first start and kind of that's it.
Yeah, I think he's absolutely a guy I'm not using this week in Washington. I think he's going to be a guy you are going to have to pick your spots with for sure. So I'm not just going to chuck him out there regardless. I don't know if he's got enough life in the rotation to be worth picking up. I mean, he's only thrown... he's not even thrown 200 professional innings since 2013. I know there's obviously going to be some injury there. I mean, in the last 2 years with the Yankees, he's actually pitched relatively well. I mean, he struggled a bit actually at Double A this year. It's the worst he's pitched since his sort of 2016, but that was only 2 innings, so we can't count too much on that. But I don't know. He's not a guy I'm chasing in shallow mixed leagues, but in deeper mixed leagues and AL only formats, go at him, see what he's got, see how long he sticks around for. Again, there's got to be somebody sitting on your roster who's not contributing at some point in that format.
Yeah, and if you're doing well, then obviously he's a guy just to kind of keep an eye on the waiver wire. But some of these guys are good. Like Domingo Germán is another guy. The Yankees, they're kind of got this interesting mix of really young guys and older veterans. Germán's really interesting for me. Obviously, the earned run totals have not been ideal. I mean, 3, 3, 4, 3, 6, 6. So and that's his last 6 outings. So obviously, he's allowing earned runs, but he's also got strikeout totals of 10, 9, 3, 7, and 6. So the strikeout potential is definitely there. And if he kind of limits the damage, this could become a guy that is really interesting. In deeper formats, in keeper and dynasty type leagues, I think Germán's a guy that, you could be looking at in a couple of years, and he's kind of a Luis Severino light.
Oh yeah, 100%. He's a guy in dynasty leagues to be keeping hold of. I don't know what my interest is in him for redraft purposes this year.
Yeah.
Again, deep leagues where you just need innings. I think go get him because he looks like he's going to have a regular spot in this rotation. It doesn't look like he's going to be sort of kicked out anytime soon. They don't really have anybody. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? If you look at the Yankees roster, you'd be convinced they were rebuilding.
Yeah.
Not challenging for a pennant because there's so many holes on the roster, but yet it's crazy. I can't quite get my head around it sometimes, just how it's all kind of working for the Yankees. It's very impressive what they're doing.
Well, and it's interesting too because you look at their kind of average ages and you'd think they're more on the rebuilding side as opposed to the veteran side. They have these young pitchers. They have obviously Gleyber Torres. They have Aaron Judge. They have Gary Sanchez. Stanton's older, but he's still not that old. Like, there's a lot to be excited about. And, there's some rumblings about potentially trading Gleyber for starting pitching as they continue to make their run towards the playoffs and potentially a World Series. So, that would be interesting to see if maybe they go after Chris Archer or they go after, some of the other potential studs, coming as they make a run down the stretch.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because they don't really, other than Chance Adams, they don't really have anything in the minor leagues that's kind of screaming out to come up right now. I mean, it's whether they want to force someone like Justice Sheffield up or push Domingo Acevedo forward a little bit. It's going to be interesting. I struggle to see anybody giving up Gleyber Torres though. Like, I know if you want to get a big return, that's what you've got to do. But that'd be a big thing to give away at this point because Gleyber Torres could be a piece in a World Series winning team for 5 of the next 10 years, and to give him up now is just kind of for essentially a rental piece is going to be kind of insane. I think
you mean like the Cubs did.
Yeah, but that was different then because Gleyber Torres was a couple of years away from the major leagues, and they had a guy who it was already there in Addison Russell and Javi Baez. You look who the Yankees have got; they've got nobody that screams, "I'm going to step in and take that spot." I'm looking, and I'm not even sort of recognizing some of the names, or I'm recognizing them, but I'm not. They're not exciting me, kind of thing in their high minors, in that kind of middle infield spot. I like what they've got in other places, like the outfield. So if I was looking to trade anybody, it's going to be one of the outfielders. But you're not giving up Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton, are you? So
no.
I just wonder with the Yankees whether or not they'll just say that this year is just a year for them, if that makes sense. It's just if they win the World Series, brilliant. If they don't, it's just a building year for them. So it's all going to be really interesting. And from a fantasy point of view, they're a fun offense to watch.
Yep. Robbie Ray is on his way back, which is kind of exciting as someone who owns him. Obviously, he made a rehab start on Friday. I guess what do you expect from Robbie Ray? Because this is a guy that when he was coming back, we thought would be awesome. He went 2.1 innings, allowing 2 earned, which were both homers, but he struck out 3. It'll be interesting to see. I would assume that he has another 1 or 2 outings before he returns, and then maybe he's making a rehab start right before the All-Star break, and then we see him full-fledged in the rotation kind of post-All-Star break.
Yeah, well, they've already announced he's making another one Tuesday, another rehab start Tuesday. But you're right. Probably I think they'll push him a little bit longer into this rehab start because their rotation's not struggling. Mac. I don't want to say his name because I'll mispronounce it, but Matt Cook.
Matt Cook. Like too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, but I also prefer to call him Cock, so it's more fun. Their rotation isn't screaming out for starting pitcher. I know Zach Godley's not been great, but I don't see them rushing him back at this stage. They're doing all right without him, and they need him for a playoff push down the line. So they're not going to rush him back and risk him. But he is also a pitcher that improves as time kind of goes on. And from a fantasy point of view, I think I would be trading for him now because I think most of his fantasy owners are pretty bummed out by what they've seen so far. But I did a sort of deep dive on him for a different site, and he historically improves as the year goes on. I mean, last year, his great year, he came out of the gate really slow, and he was really lights out through the second half. Yeah. So what you might find is that he struggles a little bit back off the disabled list, but after the All-Star break, sort of August, September time, when it's really important for your kind of final push in a Roto League, that's when he can really help you, and he can give you insane strikeout numbers. So I think I'd go and trade for him, or I'd even wait a couple of weeks and see if he sucks once he comes back and then trade for him. But he's definitely a guy I'm keeping an eye on, and I'm going to be sticking some offers in for in the coming weeks.
You don't have any concerns that maybe he needs a month or two of pitching to kind of get where he wants to get before? Like, you know what I mean? Like, do you think it's just like a calendar thing, or do you think it's like he needs 2 months to get where he needs to be, and then all of a sudden he's awesome?
I mean, it's something. He needs a period of time. But if he comes back, let's say he makes another rehab start Tuesday on the 19th, let's say he makes another one, Saturday or Sunday, you're looking at him possibly being back in the lineup last week of June. Let's say he needs 4 or 5 starts in July. So you're getting him all of August, all of September as a fantasy guy to come in and help you. It depends on the cost. I'm not paying a huge amount for him, but if I can buy him as low as I think I can right now, I think I could get him before he's impressive. Yeah. So they've improved their defense there by adding John Jay in the trade from Kansas City recently. And that all of that kind of ties in and makes him a useful guy to own.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And like you said, if someone owns him and he's, they need pitching help and they're struggling to find help on the wire, if you want to buy low, you could buy low and have a decent guy for the rest of the season. Yours Familia is on his way back. He's supposed to be activated today, which is Sunday. So that's really good for some of my fantasy teams. Let's talk pitching and kind of look forward. Miles Mikolas and Luke Weaver both pitch at home this week versus the Cubs. Weaver and Mikolas have kind of been all over the map. Weaver's been really annoying lately, allowing 4 earned in his last 2, 7 total strikeouts with 6 walks, so not great. Let's take a look at Mikolas, who has been better in terms of earned runs. He's got a blow up at Pittsburgh and versus San Diego, but for the most part, it's been 2 earned runs or less. A ton of strikeouts, not a ton of walks. I think if we're looking at both these guys this week and trying to pick one, I think Miles Mikolas is the answer, right?
Yeah, I think he is, but at Philly, at Milwaukee, I don't know how confident I am starting him. The trouble with Mikolas is, I wrote about this because he's kind of an outside Cy Young candidate because of the way he's pitched ERA terms, but it's the strikeouts that kind of hold him back because he's only got 6.64 strikeouts per 9 innings pitched, and that's going to be an issue against those teams where I feel like he needs to have dominant stuff to succeed in those 2 ballparks because they're quite hitter-friendly parks, and it's not a place you want to be getting the ball in play that much.
Yeah.
I know he has a good ground ball rate, which obviously helps. I mean, his ground ball rate is 51.6%, which is quite nice. But those two parks are places he can get stung, and I think there might be options in some sort of shallower leagues where you might prefer him. But in deeper leagues, as a two-start guy, you're starting him, and Weaver's a borderline start, but he's a little bit lower than Michaelis.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think if you have like an NFBC or weekly leagues where you have better options, obviously, you want to go that route because those matchups are scary. Philly got Reese Hoskins back, starting to he had a home run yesterday. Obviously, the Brewers are really scary, especially at home, and they got Thames back, and they got VR back. Like that team can put up some serious run support.
Yeah, they can, and it's just quite risky, and that's the problem. But the pitching is quite thin at the moment. I mean, we've got guys like Hess pitching for the Baltimore Orioles against Washington this week. When you look at the other options, it's not that great. Even the guys that have been semi-decent, like Reynaldo Lopez, you're querying whether you really want to chuck him out there against Cleveland on a regular basis. It's so difficult to judge. And honestly, the way that pitching's stretching out at the moment, I'm glad I've got football to watch to keep me interested.
Yeah. Speaking of other two-start options, Jacob Degrom at Colorado versus the Dodgers. Like, I know he's Degrom and you want to start him, but my word, that's scary.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And I think if I'm in a daily lineup sort of setup, I'm not starting him against Colorado. I just think I'd be. I've talked about my theory of what is the option that would make me more angry, and the option that would make me more angry is starting him and him getting blown up in Colorado versus sitting him having a good outing and then having missed that one. I think I'd be more annoyed if I had the really terrible kind of one in Colorado. So for that reason, I'm gonna sit him and then start him against the Dodgers. And in a weekly league, I think you have to throw him out there in a weekly league. I think you have to ride with your studs in a weekly league when they are a two-start pitcher. I just think you have to go for it and hope that he catches Colorado on a bad day.
I think that's a good question. I actually think, personally, I'd be more angry at myself for him to pitch in Colorado and get like 10 strikeouts and only allow an earned run or two than I would if I sat him or if I started him and he got blown up. Like I think I'd rather start him and take the gamble, and I think I would be more upset if he has a really good outing and he's on my bench than if he has a really bad outing and he's on my active roster.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I can see what you're saying. I think in weekly leagues, I'd be more angry if I sat him and he had a good week because obviously you missed the two starts. But just in that one game, I think the odds point to him not having that amazing strikeout game in Colorado where his stuff might not play as well. So I think I'd go that route for that in that situation. So in daily, I think I'd sit him Colorado, start him in Dodgers. Weekly, I think I would just stick him out there because he's a stud.
Yeah, so we're sitting Weaver in two-start weeks. Obviously, this is dependent on your league, but if you have better options, I think you should go that way at Philly, at Milwaukee. The guy Domingo Armand that I was talking about has a home game versus Seattle, and then he's at Tampa Bay. Is he a guy that you're comfortable with just because of that strikeout total, or do you think because of all those earned runs he's been allowing, it's probably a guy you're going to want to avoid?
Yeah, I don't know. Tampa Bay's offense is kind of weird, isn't it? And obviously Seattle have just been a really surprise package. So Seattle in New York doesn't fill me with a huge amount of confidence. If he was pitching in Seattle, I'd quite like it. But Tampa Bay, they're just weird. One day they can go crazy, and the next day they can just be horrific. It's a really frustrating offense. I think I'm going to steer clear of Herman, but I feel like I'm saying I'm going to steer clear of everybody. So. Yeah. In terms of ranking them, I think I'd put him above Weaver. And in a league where strikeouts are at a premium, I think I'd put him above Michaelis. But in ones where strikeouts just kind of fit in with everything else, like if it's not a K per 9 league sort of thing, I'd stick him in. I'd stick him in just below Michaelis, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Where does Kenta Maeda rank in that? He's at the Cubs and then he's at the Mets. So obviously that Mets outing is nice, but the outing in Chicago could be a nightmare.
Yeah, I think Maeda, I think I'm going to go about the same as Michaelis with him, in that I feel like the upside of what he can give you on a per innings basis is so good.
Yeah.
But obviously, you do have that scary threat. But again, I think the Mets start is so tantalizing that the chance that he comes out the Cubs one undamaged in only 4 or 5 innings or relatively unscathed makes me want to start him.
Yeah. If we're digging deeper, and we'll talk about some guys that are more available. Tyler Anderson of the Rockies versus the Mets versus Miami. It's a nice 1-2. And then a couple of Giants pitchers, Derek Rodriguez and Andrew Suarez, are both home for Miami and then home for San Diego. If you're in deeper formats and you're looking for two-star options, do any of those guys pop out to you?
So the San Francisco guys interest me just from a point of view of their opponents and pitching at home make for it to be an interesting kind of situation in terms of that they could have really good outings, but again, neither of them been lights out. Rodriguez doesn't even have the strikeout upside, which does concern me a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're just looking at it strictly on a per kind of start basis with the teams, I think I'd throw Rodriguez out there. I think I'd probably put Rodriguez above Domingo Germán.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think I would. I think it's just facing Miami and facing San Diego. Those two offenses, we know they're quite bad. Seattle and Tampa Bay, we know that there's something there.
Yeah, I don't know. Herman's upside with his strikeouts are so legit that it would be hard for me to do that. I'm just pulling up some. Is there any other two-star guys that really garner your attention?
Um, from flicking through, I would say no. Sorry, I'm nearly sort of dying of shock here of the fact that Mexico have just
Mexico
beaten
won.
Germany.
Yeah.
I mean, Nick Pivetta scares me. Home to St. Louis, at Washington. I think I'm looking to sit him there.
Yeah.
Bartolo Colon at Kansas City, at Minnesota. He's been so bad lately, but he's terrible at home. So pitching on the road against those two ball clubs, I actually kind of sneaky like Bartolo Colon in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Tampa Bay are a bunch of pain in the ass because they start bullpen every third day. It makes it very confusing.
Yeah.
Outside of that, no, and that's kind of why. I mean, Berrios is an interesting one.
Yeah.
He's at home Boston, at home Texas. They're both very boom or bust. I feel like Boston can have bad days and Texas have a bad day every third day, every 2 out of every 3 days. But when Texas get going, they crush you.
Yeah.
So,
and Berrios faces Chris Sale in that Red Sox matchup, which isn't ideal.
It isn't, but a win is not everything.
Nope. The one thing I will say is I was looking up the Marlins and the Padres versus lefties, and they both actually struggle. So it could be a nice outing for Suarez. It could be a nice two-star week, and actually Derek Holland versus the Marlins I'm talking about deep leagues. Wouldn't be a bad way to go either.
No, it's not a terrible option at all.
Okay, let's look at some names that are the most added this week in ESPN leagues, and let's see if you're in agreement or if you think people are being crazy. Max Muncie is getting a lot of love, and I mean for good reason. If you look at his last 15, he's hitting 375, 6 homers, 11 RBIs, a steal. He's up to almost 70% on ESPN. But Jock Peterson's right behind him, hitting 448 with 7 home runs with 10 RBIs. Like, how? Explain that one to me.
They've just got hot, haven't they? I know it's a kind of a stupid thing to say, but they have just got hot at the moment. And with Chase Utley is not exactly going to come straight back in and kick him out of the lineup. Max Muncy, I noticed he's been lining up at second base, first base, third base. He's a fairly utility guy for them. I know he was out of the lineup yesterday to allow Logan Forsythe in and to get Cody Bellinger at first base, which now seems to be a more permanent thing. Cody Bellinger in at first base.
Well, especially with Justin Turner back, and then they got Kike out in center. So Yeah, it might.
Yeah,
Playing time might be hard for Muncie, who's actually been pretty good.
it might be, but the trouble is I don't see who's going to take serious playing time away. I know Logan Forsyth has played the last 3 games, but that might just be a kind of righty-lefty kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see whether Muncie ends up in a platoon with Forsyth going forward. It seems like they used him to give Bellinger a day off, and they don't seem to be averse to using Muncie against left-handed pitchers. So I don't think I would look like Muncie needs to go up with his ownership much more, but I don't think people are crazy for adding him and looking for something at the middle infield.
Yeah, no, and it depending on your leagues, like in ESPN, he's first and third eligible, so that's not as interesting as some of the other leagues where he has that middle infield eligibility. Our boy Leonis Martin, he's still hitting. He's got 3 homers. He's got 4 steals, which is great, hitting about 260. If you're looking for some help at stolen bases, Leonis Martin, he's leading off for the Tigers most days. Great name to add.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing, what you just said, the fact that he's leading off most days and he's being relatively successful.
Mm-hmm.
Those extra at-bats, okay, they can kill you if he's sucking, but when he's hitting the way he is, that division is pretty crap. I mean, Detroit are second in it. Detroit are rubbish. But they get to face Minnesota, Chicago White Sox, and Kansas City. None of them have lights-out rotation. Cleveland have just had Carlos Carrasco go on the DL, which we probably should have spoke about at the top of the show, but he's obviously been hit by a comebacker, gone on the DL. I don't know what the kind of length of it is for him, but Detroit, I can't honestly believe Detroit are only 2.5 games back from leading this division.
Yeah, it's a total mess.
And it just shows you the level of competition that they're playing, really. So I think I absolutely would be adding Ernest Martin.
Yeah, no, I definitely think I'm with you. Just scrolling through some names here to see if there's anybody else that we need to make sure we mention. A lot of pitchers in the transaction trends. What do you think about Zack Wheeler? I know we're talking hitting, but obviously at Atlanta it always seems to be a problem for a lot of pitchers, but he was good versus Baltimore. He was good versus the Cubs. Has solid strikeout upside. Is he a guy that interests you?
Yeah, he's got a good matchup today. I know he'll be pitching as we record this against Arizona, so I think you're going to see him have a decent outing in Arizona.
Yeah.
I think you'll see his ownership spike a little bit after that, but you're right. Maybe with the Atlanta start, it's one you want to sit him for. However, I don't feel like Atlanta are quite hitting the way they were at the start of the year, so maybe you take your chances.
They just crushed him for 6 runs in his last outing. So yeah.
Oh, sorry, he's just pitched at Atlanta. I thought it was that his was next one. Oh, okay. Yeah. So pitching at Atlanta, you can sort of give him a pass for, because that can be a bad place to pitch for these guys. So, but like I say, I think you'll see a spike tonight if he pitches well. So I think you should be getting a bid in for him, but don't go crazy and overpay based on tonight's performance, is what I would say.
Nope, not at all. Okay, Ben, this was a lot of fun. Good to catch up. Good to talk some fantasy baseball. Enjoy tomorrow. Hopefully England gets a win and gets out of the group stage. And we still have another 3 weeks of this World Cup fun and football starting and baseball's rolling, and it's a good time.
And the most important thing now, I think, for both of us is we've got to keep the faith, because taking some hard losses with Argentina and Germany in terms of gambling. So, but it's the same as football season. When the favourites start off slow, it always rolls back, doesn't it?
It sure does.
I think hopefully this game will get Germany and Argentina and those guys going, and we can win some of this money back in over the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely. All right, for Ben Rolfe, I'm Kyle Robert, and we'll talk to you guys next time.